So the first hand here, in the $30 bounty tournament, we look down at queens after an under the gun open, and we see a 3-bet in middle position. I'm going to be 4-betting all in for our 20 big blinds here. Pretty standard, I think. We see a 5-bet all in. Doesn't mean too much that it's lots because everyone's relatively short in the hand, but he still has pocket kings. Very good hand. Looking for a 1-outer. And we find the 4th queen. Luckbox City over here. Very nice start to the tournament. And then the very next hand we look down at A7 suited in late position. Decide to open it up. We can see the same villain flats on the button, and big blind comes along too. And we flop top 2, so it's a great flop. Now the button could have a number of higher aces than us that don't have 2 pair, so when he raises us on this 2 clubs board, we decide to click it back. I think we have the best hand the majority of the time at the moment. And we see an all in, so we call it off. And we hold, so great run out. Bit of a sweat with the club coming on the turn. And now the third hand in a row here, we open up King Jack. We could probably fold this hand, but we're only 7-handed and we're relatively deep, so I think it's okay to open it up. We see a small all in, so we probably won't be folding this obviously, with bounties in play. Same sort of story, 2 bounties, and we're getting 3-1, 8k to call with 21k in the pot. So we call it off. We're in good shape here. Not anymore. But we bink it again, so running very hot. And now we have Ace-King suited here. In the big blind, under the gun, and the guy who raised all in, relatively short, so put it in. And we hold against Ace-10, so another bounty. Looking down at Ace-King again in the small blind. I was hoping this villain would 3-bet all in, but they decided to flat. And we flop top pair, top kicker. It's a great flop for us. Decide to small c-bet. After we see an overbet all in, we're never folding. You can see he has a great draw, and he gets there. It's always the ones before the break. Brutal hands, every time. And now we look down at kings in the cutoff after an under the gun all in for a big bounty for a $30 game. 10 big blinds, we decide to flat and set a trap, which works because we get 2 callers behind us. And we're loving this flop with no ace on it and running diamonds. And you can see I was a bit confused at the amount to bet. Normally I'd probably bet small, but I decided to put the small blind all in for his 35,000. And he snaps it off, top set. So, gonna be giving our chips back. Now we look down at Ace-Jack in the small blind after a cutoff open. His range is quite wide, he's opening 20% of hands, and he's only folding to 3-bets 17% of the time. So I was gonna 3-bet to about 20,000, but I decided to go all in because I didn't want to play it out of position. And it's just fortunate for us, he has a hand, so he wakes up with Ace-King. And he holds, so we're out. It's always disappointing to have a big stack and not cash these tournaments. But that's poker, it happens. We'll move on to the next. So we get into a $20 2k tournament, not a bounty this time. And we look down at the aces on the button. And both small blind and big blind come along to a Jack-10 deuce, rainbow. So this is pretty good for aces. Obviously, someone may have deuces or Jack-10, but we're probably ahead. So we put our stack in. And we're hoping to hold. And we do. So we triple up basically there. It's another great start. In the next hand, we open pocket 5s. We see a button all in for under 10 bigs, so call it off. And we're flipping. Trying to avoid an ace or a queen, and we do. So we're running pretty good, and we win that flip. Now we open ace king in middle position here, 7-handed. When it folds around to the big blind, and we see a 3-bet. Sorry, spoiler alert. I think the correct play is to flat and play in position, or 4-bet small so we can keep bluffs in our range. But in the moment, that's not what I did. Decide to rip it all in with ace king for just under 40 bigs effective, and snaps it off with aces. And we're looking for a queen again, and we get there on the river. These queens are treating us so nicely today. So that was a great time to crack aces. And next hand we look down at jacks, we open them up. Many people would say this is a cursed hand. The jiggities. After we see a jam, suddenly he's got 7 bigs, so pretty easy to call this one off. We're ahead, so looking to avoid the ace. And we avoid all the outs, all the flush draw and the straight draws. And we hold with the jacks. Now in the blinds we have ace deuce. We see a shove for 6 bigs and call it off. Hoping to hold. Can't hit the queen on the river like us, so we win that one. Then we have ace 10 suited. We're on the bubble with 6 of 16, as you can see in the middle, with 15 pay. So I don't think there's any point in 3-betting this hand, especially because he's not folding to 3-bets, so we just flat and keep the pot small. Comes a pretty wet board. We flop top 2 with the flush draw, and there's sort of straight draws there. Some gutters there and whatnot, so we just decide to flat and play pot control here on the bubble with quite a big stack. And we're just hoping to check call and not see a club on the river here. I also know this villain is pretty wide and will bluff us. So I want to try to keep all the bluffs in this villain's range and just slow play our monster hand. But of course it comes club on the river and we're hating it. So we'll probably have to fold to a jam here on the bubble. But he checks it back and we win, so very nice. Not sure what he had, maybe a worse ace. So now we're on final table. We sort of just had to fold our way here. We were pretty cut dead. And we open the 9s and the cutoff, and we see an all-in. 7% 3-bet. He's putting lots of pressure on us. He could have ace king, ace queen, ace jack. Worse pockets, of course, like deuces to 10s. But I think with his queens, kings, and aces and that, he probably just 3-bets smaller. He doesn't want to scare me off, so decide to call. And he has the 6s. So it's a great spot for us, obviously. And we double up. Staying patient and folding for a long time, and we get it in good. Now if the jiggities, open them up, we see an ace of course, but then it comes jack. So we turn a boat. I think it's time to start getting chips in the middle. Monster hand. But we get counterfeited on the river. So pretty easy check back, I think. I'm not sure what calls us if we bet out there. Happy to show down our jacks. But we lose it. So in the next hand now we're 5 of 7. We have queen 10, getting good odds to see a flop, so I call. And now I probably plan to just check fold this hand. I think villain has lots of kings in his range under the gun, so if he c-bets it's his, but he checks it back. Now we flop a flush draw, and I don't think villain has a king after checking back the flop, so it's time to start putting pressure on his ace highs. He calls. Now we river a flush. So I was going to put a little blocker bet out there, but I decided to check and see if villain would bluff it off without a spade, but obviously not. Always nice to win though. Now we're 5-handed here with about 20 bigs on the button, so we open up our ace king. And this same villain comes along in the big blind we've been fighting with. And we flop the nut flush draw. We could probably check this back, but I decided to bet it out and hopefully hit the club, and then the pot's a bit bigger for us. But the turn comes an 8, and that smashes the big blind's range. So does this 4. So this board absolutely kills the big blind's range. And with the big blind putting a blocker bet out, we're getting about 5 to 1. We only have to be right 20% of the time. And we're a station. We hate to fold. We get a bit curious, especially with the ace blocker. So we call. Ace-high could be good sometimes, but not this time. So he wins that one. And now the same villain opens it up on the button, and we jam Ace-10. Unfortunately, he has Ace-Jack, but we drill trips on the turn, drawing deads, so we double there. And now we heads up here, and he limps. And we have 30 bigs out of position with Ace-10 suited, heads up. Pretty good hand, so put it in there. Wakes up with Ace-Queen, so tripped us. Had a whole bunch of outs there on the turn, and a club. And we had a straight draw as well, but couldn't get there, so we bust for second, $400, which we are very happy with. Thank you all for watching. Feel free to leave a comment below what you thought. Until next time, peace.